All right, folks, welcome to Stock Analysis Fridays. My name is Bennett McDowell with TradersCoach.com. We're about 4 minutes out, so we'll get started in 4 minutes. If you're watching the recording, go ahead and fast forward 4 minutes to the start. All right, so I'm going to put a little music on, and you have a good time while we get ready over here. All right, welcome everybody. Let's just do a quick audio check, make sure you can hear me okay. So let's just do that really quickly. Hopefully you can hear everything okay over there. Somebody let me know the audio is a-okay. Okay, great. All right, super. All right, let me just come on and say welcome to everybody. It's great to have you here. Today, of course, we're in the middle of July here, so summer's trucking right along. Hoping you're having a great summer out there. All right, so today we're going to look at a variety of different stocks you want to look at. I'm going to start out looking at Bitcoin and see where that's going. You know, it's come down so much, and we want to make sure nobody is in it unless there is a reason to be in it. And so far, not quite a reason. It may have a short-term bottom here. We're going to look at it, but it doesn't look quite right yet to me to go to a long position. Markets overall, we think we're in a major long-term correction, and we may have a temporary short-term bottom in. We may have one more quick low, but then we should have a few months of a bullish correction in the downtrend. And then after that, we should have another move to the downside. And this is a long-term correction. So it's unfortunately going to play out over the next year and a half or so. So it's not going to be over very quick. And then finally, please type your stocks in all caps, and let's see if we can find some good ones today. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a few administrational items I have to cover first before we get going. All right, so first thing I got to talk about a little bit here, of course, are the risks involved in trading. We want you to be aware there are risks. There's no guarantees in trading or investing in the financial markets. So know that. It's really important. It is possible to lose some or all your money trading the market, so you always want to use capital you can afford to risk, called risk capital. And then finally, any of the stock opportunities we hear today, run them by your financial advisor or your money manager to make sure they're suitable for you, because we don't know your personal situation, and of course they do. And also to know how to do risk control. And if you need help with that, we have a great book on that called A Money Management for Traders, which is my book on the far right. And it's a very inexpensive book. We wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to implement risk control in their trading. So we brought down the price on this book to make it a very affordable amount. It is everything you need to know to incorporate a risk control set of rules into your trading approach. So I highly recommend it. You shouldn't be trading without some form of risk control. We talk about position sizing, which is, how many shares or contracts you should be purchasing when you go into a trade based on your entry, based on where your stop should be, and then also based on your account size as well. And then we go into a lot more of the specifics, like how much you should be risking in a particular sector and things like that. Great book, easy read, not a long book. It's kind of the Cliff Notes book of my more intensive book on the far left called A Trader's Money Management System, which is a great book, but that's a big read compared to the new one. So if you want something like a Cliff Notes of that book, the new Money Management for Traders book is great. Also, too, we got several other books available. We're working with Wiley, our publisher, right now on a new edition of The Art of Trading. Won't be out until next year, but we're excited about that. And then we have books on Elliott Wave and Survival Guide for Traders, which, by the way, is a great book if you're starting out in trading and you want to learn how to run your trading business right from your home. With today's technology, that's how we do it. All right. And that book's going to be a great reference on how to go forward with that. And then finally, we use a variety of different types of software. We have the ART software, which is charting software. We have scanners. We have a whole host of great software out there. So you definitely want to check that out. And that's, of course, available as well. Now, one of the things you do need to know here is that when we look at different charts, this software you may not have seen before, and that's okay, because I'll go over things and explain things, how they work and so forth as we go through it. And then finally, like, subscribe, and share. Apparently that's how we get around on YouTube these days, is you need to like, subscribe, and share. More people we bring here, the better. And because almost what this is developing into is a stock picking service at this point. So when people come with a few stocks and we get a lot of those types of situations, then we can find stocks that are great for everybody. So keep that in mind. All right, let's get out of here. And I do want to talk about GBTC first. Go ahead and type your stocks in. I also want to take a look at gold and silver today. So here is my setup here. I've got a 60-minute time frame over here. I've got a daily here, and then I've got a weekly here. So the 60-minute time frame is going to give you the short-term view of the same market. This will be the intermediate view, and the weekly gives us the long-term view. So this is called multiple time frame analysis. I'm kind of known for trading in this format. I day trade the same way. In fact, at the end of the session, We'll take a look at some of the intraday markets on the futures markets and see what's cooking there and see if there's any, it's kind of fun to just take a look at some possibilities on the day trades. And as you know, we run a day trading room as well. So those are the markets we trade in that room. All right, so GBTC, what's cooking? Well, we've obviously had a tremendous move to the downside. And I know this has hurt a lot of people because when they got in over in this area here or even in this area, didn't work out too well. If you went in off this bottom here and you were using risk control, you would have trailed your stops up. If you tried again here, you would have gotten stopped out. So it's been kind of a difficult trade. But if you used risk control, you would not have had a large loss. You would have had a couple, one small loss, and trailing your stops would have given you a profit on the others. So that's where we stand right now. This is a great example of why trading is better than buying and holding most of the time, simply because things don't always go up, things don't always go down, and we can play these particular swings in the market. So what do we do with GBTC now? All right, well, let's go over to the weekly chart over here, the long-term aspect. And we have a couple indicators we really take a look at. One's called the OWL here, which measures momentum. So this measures the speed of price. The next one is the PTF, and this indicates whether there are more highs or lows at certain major pivot points in the market. So if we look here, we've got a red triangular pyramid still pointing down. Now, that's part of the applied reality trading system, also known in the industry as ART, and basically developed that here at TradersCoach.com. And we have a very negative OWL. So this is still in a bearish move to the downside on this time frame. Now, if we go to the daily time frame, which is the chart in the center, again, we have a negative OWL, but it's much closer to going positive. So that's actually a good sign. Possibly, maybe we have some type of bottom forming here. We have pyramids here, down here, that were all used for the short trade. They have been stopped out, and we have a neutral PTF here. And if we go to the 60-minute, we have some bullishness going on, which is basically isolating this current move up here that we're seeing right here off the bottom. So what do you do with this? Well, if you want to take a regular type of position trade, it's a little early. We want to wait for this to go green here. Then you might have a possibility. Whatever trade size you want to use, I'd cut it in half because you're going against the weekly chart. And also, too, if you wanted to trade the short-term chart, that would have been fine, but it's getting a little late to do that at this particular point. So I would use the daily chart and wait a little bit more for a possible long position. But remember, cut your trade size in half. This thing may not still be going down, but we may have an opportunity to trade the next bullish swing in this market. So kind of interesting, so to speak. All right, so let me just go on to gold real quick. Everybody always asks me about gold, so let's just go ahead and knock that out here. So in looking at gold here, it's been sliding to the downside quite a bit, and we still have a green PTF on the weekly chart, but it's getting pretty darn low here. So it's broken all major support levels at this particular point. So I think right about now, you want to stay away from gold for a long position. It's coming down. I wouldn't go near it right now, but we'll take a look at it each and every week and see. Let's take a look at silver and see how that's panning out as well. So on silver here, same type of thing. So the metals have all been going down, which is kind of interesting. They've been going down for quite some time, even though the equity markets have also been sliding to the downside. So it's kind of interesting to see that people didn't really leave the equities and go into the safer haven of metals. And so that's kind of telling right away. I'm not sure exactly what that's telling, but maybe gold and silver may not be the places people are running to in times of safety like they used to in the past. So kind of interesting. They certainly aren't running to the Bitcoins either. So they may just be taking their money out of the market and stockpiling the cash for right now and lightening up a little bit. Hard to say. All right, market's up right now about 51 points in general. So that's where we are overall. All right, let's take a look and see what kind of stocks you guys want to take a look at. Stuart, welcome. We got snow, S-O-N-W, snow in July, right? All right, let's take a look at this bad boy and see how that's doing here. Give that a second to load. So we looked at this one last week, and we were kind of thinking it's heading up into this target zone here, which is a fib retracement target zone. And basically the fibs work off Fibonacci numbers. So if you're kind of new to fibs, that's how they work. We draw them between waves 2 and 3. We don't always pick the top of the pivot point where the trend either begins or ends. We usually use wave 2 and draw it down to wave 3 for a much more accurate area of probability. So 70% of the time, wave 4s, which is what we think we're in now, end here. So we're going to see how that pans out here. So if you're long on this one, I would, at this particular point, stay long. This is actually looking good. This may be one of our good ones. All right, I don't think we picked this last week. I'm not sure if we did, but it certainly looks fairly good now, provided your risk to reward is good, which means that wherever you enter, all right, your target zone, which is sitting up here, you want to make sure wherever you have your stop, you want to have your stop as low as possible here. All right, your risk to rewards should be 2 to 1 on this. So you're a little shy on that, but it's still not a bad trade, okay? So I'm kind of liking that. So long on that one, Stuart. And then the next one is coin, C-O-I-N. Give that a second to load. And this is very similar, you know, to the Bitcoin in that we're seeing some type of rebound now up to that area. A little different than Bitcoin in that here we've got a green owl. Now we've got a red PTF. I don't usually like to go long against that, but it could remain red the entire way here. This is a very risky trade, and I'm not going to recommend this to anybody for right now, simply because you've got a red PTF here, you've got one here, you're going against the weekly trend. You probably are going to keep this red the entire way up to the wave 4 target area. So if you're an experienced trader, you're okay with that. Okay, that's fine. You got to use risk control. The entry area is excellent. This is actually looking pretty good too, but I'm not going to recommend it because of the red PTFs, and we really haven't broken that trend line on the daily chart. So I'm going to keep that off the recommendation list for now. However, next week could be a different story. All right, so let's keep going on. Patricia, how are you? All right, IWM. Let's see what's cooking with old IWM here. We haven't looked at that in a few weeks, I think. All right, so we've had a move to the downside on this. And as you can see, it's almost mimicked the Dow, so to speak, because, you know, it topped in what, late 2021, early 2022, and has been selling off all year. So you can obviously see the trend down, all right? So the question is, you know, what type of bottom? So here's what we think is going to happen with the Dow, and I think IWM is going to be a good representation of that. So our first move down is what we call A wave. Now, this is a weekly chart, so this is a long-term scenario. After A wave, you have a long-term bullish B wave. You never take out the high, usually never, okay? There's no guarantees in anything, but if this forecast is accurate, this high, which would be wave 3, is probably not going to be penetrated again for about 1.5 years to 2, maybe 3 years. All right, so we're talking about a long-term bearish correction. However, you know, nothing goes straight down. So your B wave, which is what I think we're either close to being in now or we are in now, is developing. So there are some great long trades that you're going to be able to take, all right, for B wave. And B wave should last several months. So when we get to the bottom of these big moves down, which is kind of what is happening on many, many stocks now, we're seeing a lot of good opportunities for a trade to the long side. So this is one of those, okay? I'm liking it. We've got pyramids here. We are off the bottom here. We've penetrated the short-term trend line. That's okay. So I like this for a long position. We've got green over here on the 60. We don't have any red PTFs. They're all yellow, so they're neutral. All right, we have an active bearish pyramid here, and this is bearish. So I would calculate your trade size using the trade size calculator or our risk to reward calculator, and then I'd cut the position in half. And the reason I'd cut it in half is because technically the weekly chart is still extremely bearish. So I like this for a long trade. I'm going to put this down as IWM is one you can take right away. All right, so that if you're not in this one, this may be a good possibility to you, for you, but just cut the trade size down a little bit so you've got the proper trade size in place. All right, any questions on that? All right, so I think that looks pretty good. Target zone, where is this thing going? All right, so let's draw some fibs in. That's something we should do here. Let's go off this little point here and here. So I think probably we're looking at 192 to 210 and 181 already. So a little bit late, okay, but not a bad trade if it can get to the upper edge of this target zone around 210. Okay, so not a bad one, okay? Not my most favorite because the risk to reward is not as high as I'd hoped it was, but not too bad. So that's IWN. Thank you, Patricia. Excellent. All right, let's keep going here. We got the symbols coming in here. Frank, how are you? Let's take a look at TN, and that's TNDM. Okay, so give that a second. Whoops, typed it wrong. Let me do that again. TNDM, and let's see what we got cooking over here. All right, just give that a second to loading the data. All right, so here we go. All right, similar situation in that, you know, we've had another move down, but this move here, all right, is also, I think, probably close to a bottom here. But on the weekly chart, you know, we only have data back to what, 2014. So it's not like it's a blue chip stock where we have a lot of data. And that is not a very bullish looking situation on the weekly chart over here. So we've had a move up here, here, and now we have a red PTF. So this baby's still heading down, and this bottom may not hold. So, and that's sitting almost at the zero. So I'm not 100% behind a long-term bullish move on this, but we may get some type of bullish bounce here. And so let's draw some fibs in here and see what we've got cooking and possibility of a bullish bounce. So I'm going to run it probably right from this little bar here to here. So we're probably looking at a possibility here of 92 to 116, and we're at 62. So that's not too bad. You want to put your stop at the bottom. So you got about a $12 run to the bottom, $10 to $12 risk in order to make $30. So there's your over 2 to 1 risk to reward. So not too bad. I can't recommend this right this second because we still have a red owl, all right, on the daily chart. So this is one put on a watch list, and you probably are, I'm going to put this on my watch list as well, and we'll look at this next week, but you may get an entry, you may get a green owl on it next week. So keep an eye on that. If you do, go ahead and take a long position and put your stop at the very, very bottom, okay, just to ensure in case it's not done coming down on this particular swing. But I think we're probably close to a bottom here. All right, and it's a temporary bottom, so you don't want to buy and hold it forever. Just buy and hold it up to the target zone and take advantage of this next bullish swing. All right, so that is TNDM, good one to look at. All right, let's keep going here. All right, let's see. We've got William, how you doing? Last week, number one, yes, SD. Let's take a look at SDGR and see how that is plotting along this week. All right, so I just typed that one in. This is one that we liked last week, and sure enough, it seems to be going in the right direction. So we looked at this as a possible bottom here as well. All right, so let's remove here. And I think last week we were looking at a target zone type of trade. So kind of coming up to a retracement level and we're kind of looking right around in that time period there. So it's still got a little ways to go. All right, we've got a nice move up. Now, what's interesting about this one is that, you know, I always say to put the stop at the bottom, right? When you get in early, you know, you can put your stop there. And the reason for that is this move down, which usually comes and can actually go ahead and retrace the entire distance of the first move up. So you don't want to get stopped down on volatility on these type of corrective trades. So you want to have those stops far enough. So since we've had this first correction, you can put your stop right under here now. Okay, move that up. And you can actually have a scale out point here since you've reached the red area here. But you want to keep your stop at least here, wait for the next pullback, and then move it up to the pyramids. Okay, so that's how I would play that. So the pyramid trading points are what we use normally for stops when we get close to our target. And so at this particular point, we're getting there. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. That's SDGR, and that was one of the picks that we liked last week. Still like it today, getting a little close to the target zone. So the risk to reward's not quite there, but hopefully you took it last week. All right, NNOX was the next one. Let's take a look at that one. And you'll find a lot of stocks near their bottoms here simply because of the fact that the Dow itself has reached probably a close, if not reached already, a bottom of a wave. All right, so this is the same type of thing. Now, this one actually is probably a better trade than the other one, SDGR, at this point, because NNOX is still one I can recommend to take now. So this is my favorite so far, again, this week. All right, I put this down as my #1 pick right now. So why? Okay, the reason being is that the entry here and the stop, you can put the stop down here. All right, this risk, all right, is not that much compared to the potential gain, and the gain would be to the target zone. So you've got a good 2.5, almost 3 to 1 risk to reward in your favor. Plus, you've got a green owl, a green PTF. This is green, no red over here, and this is almost going red, almost green here. So not a very deep one. So I would go in with a full trade size on this one. This is my favorite pick so far today, and the target's 29 to 42, and we're sitting at 13. So if it gets solidly into that target range, you know, you're looking over 100% return on your money. So I'm liking this one a lot. Okay. So Bill, this is the best one for this week. Glad you brought that up for us to take a look at it. And this is kind of what you want to find. You want to find those needles in the haystacks. You know, anytime you take a mediocre trade, all right, you're kind of, you know, you're just not picking the best opportunity. Why put your money into something mediocre when you can put it into something like this? Where all, you know, basically everything, all the dots are connecting on this one. So this is where you want to be, NNOX. Okay, great one. All right, so winner so far. All right, so let's see. All right, next one is Cheng. How you doing, Cheng? SOXL. Again, please always type your symbols in caps for me. And Barry, I'll get to you next. All right, so what are we doing with this bad boy? All right, so we've got a bearish trend still in place on the weekly chart with a very bearish wave 3 coming down. All right, so the pyramids are telling us to stay short. The stop on this trade would be right here. Let's see what the other charts are showing us as well. All right, so we got some type of big move down here. We're at 18 bucks. And a little bit of change. We kind of got to bounce off this bottom here, which is pretty decent. All right. Little on the risky side because of the fact that that owl on the weekly chart is so bearish. All right. Again, you're not connecting quite all the dots. So on this here, let me just run a fib retracement on the daily chart and see if anything makes sense. I'm just going to run it from here to here. So the target possibly on this rebound is between 32 and 47. All right, so there's your target. You do have a green owl on the daily, okay, and you do have bullishness here. So there is a reason to trade to the long side if this is a bottom. You know, anytime you get in early on a retracement trade, you will make money if you get to the target zone. You will lose money if you pick the bottom wrong. And, you know, that's it. There's nothing fancy about it. You either picked the bottom correctly or you didn't. So when we use our tools, what we're trying to do is put the probabilities of picking that bottom in your favor. And so when you have a green owl like you have here, you have no red here, then chances are, all right, the tools are telling you you probably picked a corrective probability correctly at bottom. Now, the reason why it would be a corrective probability is because this over here is still so bearish. So the problem I see with this is risk to reward on this one. So, you know, if you put your stop down here, let me just open this up a little bit so you can see it. So if you put it down here on the pyramid here, all right, then prices are here. So that distance represents your raw risk. So you've got pretty close to a 2-to-1 if you get into the target zone. All right, so you're going to have to get into the target zone to make this worthwhile. So there you have it. All right, you could take this trade. I'll put this down on one that's not too bad. All right, but it's not as good as NNOX, but not too bad. All right, so this is actually one. If you pick the bottom here, you'll make some money. All right, again, not a buy and hold, because after that retracement, you know, when we say something like this, we expect this after it hits this target zone. So you don't want to, you know, buy and hold it. You just want to trade the swing. All right, very good. All right, SOLX, that's once again. All right, next one is INCY, and this one is for Barry. All right, so let's take a look and see what's cooking on this one. And then Jason will look at yours as well. Now, if you want to tell me whether you're long or short or thinking about a trade, that's also helpful for me to know when I go over things. All right, so looks like we're starting to see some type of bullishness maybe coming in at some point here. All right, we've had a green PTF during the entire wave 4. So this is a 3. This is a pullback. I don't think the pullback's over yet. This concerns me. All right, this red PTF. So basically, this is saying there's a 75% probability that the markets will return and take that out. All right, yes, we're in a bullish run now, but I'm not going to go long with the red PTF. So I don't think the correction has bottomed yet. I think it's going to come down again. So I would stay away from this one. And if the PTF abruptly turns green, then I may consider it again. Other than that, no go. Okay. So that is INCY. Thank you, Barry. Okay. Let's take a look for Jason at AMD. Okay. So AMD, just like all the stocks, have come down. I'm telling you, it's an incredible time to try to get in early on the next correction that could last to the upside for several months. All right, so again, same scenario as a lot of the other stocks. We've had the bounce off the bottom. We have a green PTF here, so we're eventually going to go up, but this is the long-term chart. We technically have a very bearish red owl and an active pyramid. We have no active pyramids here. That was stopped out here. So if you were short, you'd be out here. This is almost turning green, but not green. This is green. This is green. So I would say on this particular run that we have here, probably no go, because at this particular point, if I draw in the retracements, we're going to be pretty close to the target already. So here's how I would play this. If you want to keep an eye on this, I would not go in now because of the red owl. I would wait for this to possibly retrace. We haven't gotten a huge retracement yet. So let's see if we get one. And then if we get one, then that will increase the risk to reward if we can get in just after the retracement's completed. So I wouldn't go in yet, but we'll put this on a watch list and take a look at it next week, and that is AMD. Let's take a look at our next one, SOFI, and this one is for Jason as well. You can give that a second to load here. Okay. This one's looking much better to catch a potential bottom here. Like this one a lot. Okay, so what's cooking with this one? All right, this one actually is just here. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. Here was the bottom. Here's the first initial move up. And now look, here's the pullback. And now we've gone back up. Now we have green, 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 green. So this is why I always say, if you're going to get in on that first leg, get that stop at the very bottom. Now, what do you do now? Looks like this is the pullback. I'd still put my stop here because we have not gone above here yet. When we go above here, that's when you can use that stop. So we're still in technically a range-bound type of rolling bottom. But I like it, and I think we're going to go higher because the green PTFs are pretty prominent. So what would I do with this? This is a good one, okay? SOFI is an immediate. You can take this trade, provided it has good risk to reward. Let's check that right now. So everything is looking pretty tight on this. Let me just make sure I'm going back enough on this one. So we had a high. I can actually use this point here. So I think this is going to turn out pretty decent. So there's your target, $12 to $17. You've got about a 2-to-1 into the target. So I think you're A-OK on this. So, so far we've got NNOX and SOFI as our winners, okay? So that is looking, let me just write that down myself. So I'm liking this. Again, you're going against the weekly trend to the downside, so you want to lower that trade size. So whatever trade size you use, you want to calculate with. You know, we have the trade size calculator and the risk to reward calculator that does this for you. So when you calculate your trade size, cut it in half because you're going against the weekly chart at this point, okay? And that's kind of normal because when you get in early on the daily chart, chances are the weekly chart hasn't had a chance yet to really reflect that. So there we are. SOFI, excellent one. Thank you, Jason, for that one. All right, Key, how are you doing? Let's take a look at Key's CALM rather. Let me type that in and we'll get going here. All right, so this is one we've looked at before, okay? This is one heading up to, this is a little different sequence than the others. So here was a wave 3, here was a 4, and now we're heading up, we think, to 5, okay? So that's where it stands. Now, the only thing that's risky about this, we hit this here, okay? We've still got a green here, so I think we're gonna go on up. There is always an alternate wave count, and that would be if this was a 3 completed here, and this was an A, B, C. All right, I don't think that's the highest probability scenario. I think what we're seeing here is the end of wave 3 over here when it gets to a high, because there's 5 waves in there, and that's what it's looking like to me. So I'm liking this. It's too late to get in it now because the risk to reward is not there anymore. All right, PTF says there's a 75% probability we're going to clear this high. So we're looking pretty good. I don't see any red on the short-term time frames. And in this one, you're actually have already been going with the weekly chart. So on this pyramid here, would have been a nice entry here. But it's getting a little bit far along, okay? So I'm not going to put this on the ones, on the winners for today, but it certainly is good. Now, I will throw this out. When you're getting in late on a market, but you still want to do it, you know, you can always do an option play because you can control your risk with the option and still participate. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, so there you have that. So that's CALM. Let's go to CAN, CAN. Key, this is another one for you. And give that a second to load. All right, so I'm liking this one as well because we have green, green, no red, green, green, close red, closing to come up. Okay, so I'm liking this. All right, let's see where the target could be on this. Let me just take a look at the weekly. All right, so weekly we had a really big blip up. This is only $4.25. So this is kind of an interesting one. This one actually, if it breaks out, could be quite significant. on this. I'm just going to draw them in from here to here because this is not a 3. This is probably a 1. This could be a 2. So if this thing recovers and breaks out, it could keep going. So, 16 to 25, and we're at 425. The risk to reward is no problem there. The only thing about a trade like this, look how long it's been meandering, okay, for quite a long time, like a year, over a year. All right, so it's very possible if you go into this, it could meander quite a bit longer. So the only thing I like about this here is we've gotten a basing, a short-term basing there. I kind of think if you wanted to try to take this one, this isn't bad. I don't like it as good as I like the others, but it ain't bad, okay, so as they say. So I'm going to put can on here. I think you're probably sitting okay for a stop right under here, under these pyramids here. And, so yeah, it's a winner for today, but it's not as good as some of the others, but it is a winner for today. So CAN would be a good one. All right, now let's keep going here. Amazon, I'm long this stock. Okay, Barry, let's take a look at it for you and see. All right. Okay, so on Amazon here, we've got no red on the short-term time frames. We do have red on the weekly chart. So again, this is one of these where I don't think it's quite done correcting. Because of the red PTF here, this is signaling there's a 75% chance that this low is going to be taken out. Now, what the PTF indicator, which is this one here that's red, doesn't tell us is when. And, we could get a correction up to 140 or 150 before it dives back down. All right. And that's kind of what I think is happening. We're in a corrective mode here. Now, I took the fib retracements off from here to here. And so that dropped down this target zone to 126 to 143. So I don't think I'd go long on it yet. If you're long already, you can stay long because we're not quite at the target zone. But you're going to want to move those stops fairly close when you get back into that target zone, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, Amazon for a long-term hold right now, you're going to have to talk to your financial advisor about that, but you're probably going to see more lows below 100 before the major corrections are all over, okay? So Amazon will suffer like some of the others in the market as well, all right? IBELT. Let's see what we got cooking on that. All right, so I typed that in. I don't see any data coming up for that, so I'm not sure. Oh, okay, Gene, that's you. Okay, that's somebody's name. Okay, sorry. All right, so let's keep going here. All right, let's M-A-R-R. Okay, let's take a look at that one, and that's for Lynn. Okay, so this is looking really good for a retracement trade as well. All right, I'm liking this one. There's no red on the short-term time frames. Let's draw our fibs in for some type of target zone. We can use that point and that point. Not bad, okay? Not bad. So I think this one goes under one of our winners again, all right? My favorite one is still NNOX because the risk to reward is just superior to these, but this is actually excellent. You've got a 2-to-1 in here. This was almost the second best one, okay, for today. So we've had quite a few. All right, so I'm liking this. You're going to have to cut your trade size because you're going against the long-term trend as well. The bottom's not in on this, so what we think when we talk about a retracement trade, what we're really saying it's going to go up here and then come back down. But you can make money right up to the target zone. And that's where the opportunities are in this particular cycle of the market. So I'm liking this. MARA is excellent. We may get some short trades on most all of these in about a month or two. when they reach the target zone. So we'll have to come back and take a look at those and swing it back to the downside at that point. All right, so Lynn, excellent find here, MARA. All right, Al, good to see you. APRN, and you are short on all these that you want me to look up here. So let's take a look at this one. We'll start out with this one here. Okay, so I don't know what time frame you're actually doing this on, but the daily chart I would not be short on, okay? I'd actually be looking for a long trade, corrective trade. So let me just take a look at this here and draw the fibs in. So we really, let me just make sure, see if we've got, okay, so we do have a higher high there. Okay, so let me just draw the fib retracements in from here to here. So actually, you know, this is shaping up to be not a bad long trade. I would not take it now because you have a red owl over here in a downtrending market. So if you're using the 60-minute chart owl, yes, short, stop here, all right? And that's how I would play that. If you are using any other time frame other than the long term, no. So actually, next week we should look at this one. I'm going to put APRN on the watch list for a possible long trade once the 60-minute chart turns around. Right now it's bearish, so there you have that. So be careful here, Al, and don't stick around too long because we may have a bottom in here and we may see a turnaround, okay? So good one to look at. All right, AAL, let's take a look at that. Okay, so we've had a pretty good bounce off here. Boy, this is a messy one. All right, when I see a chart like that, I run for the hills. I'm not going to trade it on a daily chart, maybe a 60-minute chart, but look at the volatility of this. Okay, you're going to have to keep your stop fairly far away because there's so many counter movements to the trend. So the trend technically is down, but these are pretty big swings. This is not very orderly. It's a little more orderly on the weekly chart, but at this particular point here, I don't think I would take a position trade on this. And you may have an opportunity here for a long-term bullish trade, but this bottom would have to hold here and you have a bearish owl and a bearish pyramid. So no go on this at all, okay, on anything. So I just, at this particular point, not that excited about it. If you're short owl, you can use the weekly chart to place your stops and so forth on that one. But it's not an entry for anybody new here. And SLI is the next one. And I realize you're short, so actually, hopefully you've made some money already on these. All right, so this one seems to be turning around abruptly. Again, if you were short on this one at this particular point, you would have been stopped out earlier this week, okay, when that pyramid was hit. So you've got green here, you've almost got green here, green here. So you kind of don't want to be short here. All right, cover your short when you can. All right, let's see. That's NVIDIA. Oh, we haven't looked at that one. NVDA, Key, this is yours. Good turnout today. Excellent. All right, NVDA. Let's see what we've got here. And let me just see, and you're long. Okay, so you're long here. Okay, so you have no red on the 60, no more red here, liking that. So this is considered, at this particular point, we have to consider this as possibly a counter trend trade. Now, what's interesting is when you have a green PTF like on the week, on this particular chart here, draw your fibs in because I think you've already hit your target for the retracement here. So this is kind of interesting. Yeah, you see, you're already in your target here. So even though you've got a very strong red, you've also got a green and you've got an ABC. So the big question is this a bottom, or are we going to go down one more time? Tough to call, but I think there's enough connecting of the dots here. This is pretty clean over here. This is bottom here, that I would say at this particular point, I would take this as a possible new trend up, and it should exceed this high of 340. All right, it's going to take a while, so that would be a long-term trade to get way up there. But in any case, if the bottom's not in, you may have an opportunity for a retracement trade, but you're kind of already at an area here where the retracement area has almost been reached. So I think probably NVDA I'll put on the list. It's not my favorite right now, but it's I put it in the third position. But it's one I actually like, okay? It's one I would probably take in hopes to try to catch a huge new trend to the upside. So if this is a 3, this is a 4, then what we're trying to do is get in on this 5. And if we're right, we'll make a ton of money, which is why I like it. So I'm liking this, okay? It's green, green. You got to cut the trade size a little bit here, okay? But yeah, I see nothing wrong with it. The only thing, the reason why, why isn't this my favorite, even though it could be the possibility of a potential trend? Because if I get into an area where I'm not sure 100% of the bottom's in, then I draw my fibs. If I don't have the risk to reward on the fibs, which is the worst case scenario, then that takes it a notch down in terms of whether it's my favorite or not. So if I could get in here and have a 2-to-1 just to a fib retracement, and yet with the plans on hopefully blowing past that and getting into a new trend, then that's a home run. Okay, so hopefully I cleared that up. So if it's a fib retracement and the bottom's not quite in yet, we're almost at the retracement level. So that's the only thing with that. But no trade is 100%. So there comes a time when you have to decide whether it's worth the risk. And I think this one's worth the risk for a long-term trade. But that's the only thing that knocked it down a notch. So hopefully I'm clear on that. But I like it, okay? All right. So, okay, APRN is our next one. Let's take a look at this bad boy and see what's going here. All right, so this is one we looked at before. All right, so this is one here where it started to move up. Now we're in that big move down. So again, this is why I say put your stop at the bottom. Now, when you do that, you're giving yourself the best possible chance to reach the target zone. Because if this is an A wave, then you have B wave, right? And B wave can be a nasty wave that almost comes down to the bottom of wave 3. All right, so hopefully this will turn around and we'll get C wave. Now, what do you do now? Do you enter now? No. Okay, I would put this on a watch list right now. And I think we looked at this one already. And we're just going to wait for this one now to turn around when this turns green. Okay, so there you have it. All right, and that's what Gene was referring to there. Okay, William saying, I will repeat that, but you guys can read what he's saying. That's pretty funny. All right, so the video looks pretty good. Maybe she's using the art software. I don't know. Okay, Nancy likes this one, so that's pretty funny, Phil. Okay, all right, so we'll have to look up on our database and see if she has the art software. All right, so and I think I went to the end. Did I miss anybody? Okay, did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. All right, so good session today. Awesome. Here's the ones I've wrote down. Okay, NNOX. Let's take a look at that one first. Let's go back and just go over some of these, and you guys can tell me which one you like the best. This is the one I have down as the #1 for today, simply because the risk to reward is good, and the owl's almost going green on the weekly chart. There's not a ton of history on this one, because you can see on the weekly chart, it started just about a little over a year ago. So but everything is looking fairly good. So I like this one. All right. This is good. SOFI was the next one. I mean, we can have, of course, a lot more than one winner, right? So this is another one where we're getting in fairly decent with a good risk to reward. We're just going against the weekly chart. But, you know, normally when you take a retracement trade, you're usually going to go against the weekly chart anyway. All right, so that's okay. I'm liking that one. CAN was one I liked. Let's type that one in and see that one coming up. So this one has a really good risk to reward as well. All right, there it is there. Okay, we're getting in early. All right, slight bearish owl, but everything else looks good. So I like that one. That's actually a very, very good one too. Well, we got so many close ones here. MARA, let's see about this one. Again, similar situation, all right? The only difference with this one, a little bit more red on the weekly chart, okay? But not a bad one, all right? We should probably get to the corrective area because we have green PTFs on the lower time frames. And then NVDA, all right? This is the other one, okay? An anti-stock. All right, so let's see what we got here. Okay, so we got a bounce off the bottom there. We're thinking hopefully this is now going to trend and make a new high. That's what we're hoping because the risk to reward on any type of retracement trade is not there. Okay, so I think all those look good. So NNOX, SOFI, CAN, MARA, NVIDIA. Watch list, APRN. Let's see, watch list TNDM. IWM looked pretty good too for a while. Let's take a look at IWM again. This is one I think, I'm trying to think if we like this one right away or let's take a look. All right, so this one we're a little, the risk to reward's not quite there. I think that was the problem on this one, okay? And I don't think the correction's over on the long-term chart. So that's why that didn't make it to the list today. And let's take a look at SNO. So that kind of is no. If you're long already, great, okay? But not one for a new entry. Similar situation here. And let me just see here. Yeah, okay, so, you know, the stop would have to go near the bottom, and that it puts it the risk to reward a little bit out of touch for the target zone. So that's kind of why that's off the list. All right, so I think the winners are NNOX, SOFI, CAN, MARA, and NVIDIA, NVDA. What do you think? Any comments from you all out there? And tell me which ones you like the best. Tell me which ones you think you like the best. Now, just so you know, I'm waiting for people to comment on that. You know, we record these sessions. We'll put the recordings up. So if you ever can't make one of the Friday sessions, the recordings will be there. They're under a playlist called Stock Analysis Friday, obviously. All right, so you have to go there to find it. And then what I try to do by the end of the day, it takes me a little while to compile everything, but by the end of the day, what I do is I put a timeline on the recording, and then I tell you in the area, the description, you have to click on more to see it. In the description area, I put on there the actual individual stocks, and all you have to do is click on the stock, and it'll take you right to the analysis of the stock, okay? All right, so here, let's see, Key, good, great analysis. Thank you, Key. Let's see, we've got several winners. Jason thinks MARA and NVIDIA is the best. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those that we like today, okay? All right, SIFI, let's say a long-term buyer, just a short-term trade. SOFI, let's take a look at that one again. Give that a second to load again. So on this one here, we're kind of looking at it as a short-term trade to the target zone. So I'm not, based on this analysis, I'm not looking necessarily for a long-term trade. But again, what you want to do with this is when you get to the target zone, don't just get out of the trade, trail your stops up in case it blows through the target zone. Now, we do have a green PTF, so you bring up a good point here. And that PTF is sitting way up here. So the problem is what could happen on this trade is we could go here, here, and then here, okay? And the PTF would still be right, but we wouldn't, if we tried to hang in there for a long trade, we'd get stopped out. So I would take it to the retracement zone, trail your stops fairly close here, all right? And if it keeps going, you're in good shape. This is what concerns me about just hanging on for this, because I think we're going to get a correction and one more blowdown before. So I don't know if we're going to get to that high before we get to another low. So I would just trade it to the corrective area, which is going to give you a profit between 12 and 17 bucks. And it's at $6.68 right now. So that's almost 100% return just to there. So when you get to that target zone, use stops. All right. Good question, though. Excellent. All right. I think we're good. All right. So listen, thank you for coming today. Really appreciate the turnout. We're getting more and more people every week, and that means more and more stocks we can look up and more opportunities. So I'm kind of loving the fact that we're getting this kind of turnout. And, we've got quite a few good ones for this week. And, the market being, near a bottom here is why we're seeing so many good possible retracement trades. So as traders, trade the swings. That's how we outdo the buy and holders. And we'll see you back here next week. Thanks so much for being here. And one more thing, I'm going to put some day trading charts up. Okay, and let's take a look at those real quick. This is kind of fun to do because this is what we do in our day trading room. So we day trade futures, and we do it on a very short time frame. So this is, believe it or not, a 1 minute time frame. This is a 15-second, and this is a 5 minute. So our long-term chart's a 5 minute. And believe me, sometimes we have to wait 30 minutes for us to get a multiple time frame art software setup, but that's what we do. So what's going on here? It looks like maybe a 3, 4, 5. We're probably close to the target zone. So I don't see a trade to the short side now. It would have been good earlier, but not now. Instead, I would wait for this thing to bottom and then possibly look for a long trade. So if we drew some fibs in here, we'll use extensions roughly, and we bring it down to here and here. That's our target zone. All right, so when we get down here on the 1 minute chart, then that should be the end of this big move here on the long-term chart. Then I think you could take a long trade. Okay, so this is the Russell, this is the M2K, so you can take a look at that. Let's take a look at the MES real quick here. Okay, so again, if you're just showing up now, it's a little late, all right, to go short. It probably, according to the 15-second and the 1 minute chart, we're probably going to get a little bit of a rebound here. So something along the lines of this. So the risk to reward is not quite there for a long trade. And we have such an incredibly deep owl here on the 5 minute. You don't want to go against that. So I would instead wait for prices to get here and then take a short trade. Okay, so 3, 4, 5. So MES, which is the micro, or the ES, you could trade that. Wait for the short trade and join the trend to the downside. So you got to wait for this to get in here. This will go green while it gets in here. Then it turns around and will go red again. This should stay red. This should turn yellow when it gets to the target zone. And this we want to make sure is red before we take a short trade. So this is one I would put on a watch list if I was a day trader and look at it for when it gets to the target zone. Let's take a look at gold here real quick. Okay, gold is in a corrective move down here. Doesn't look to me like it may be over. Let's draw some fibs in here and see. All right, so we had a big move up here. We matched that move. I'm just going to move it right up here. So we did hit the target zone. Okay, so we did hit the target zone. So we could go back into the target zone. So this is probably an A, B, might even be going into a complex correction. That could be the end of C, or we could get one more move down. So you got green here, green here. So this is a trade you could take. I would put your stop under here, okay, in case it takes one more dive in. Your target on something like this, let me just get the correct. The target on this one is going to be here to here, and let's just say here. So that's a decent target zone. All right, so I am liking this trade, okay? So this MGC is one you could take now. You don't have any more bearish pyramids. If you wanted to wait for a bullish pyramid, you could. You do have that on the 15-second, and you have green owl. So this is one you could go into now trying to get to the target. So that's how I would approach that. And of course, this will be contracts, okay? Again, calculate your trade size and take it from there. Let's take a look at the MNQ. All right, so this basically is correcting, but it's still in a downtrend. And so retracements here, I'm thinking maybe something, yeah, something like that. So I would not trade this to the long side. Wait to see it correct and then take it back down. So MNQ would be a short trade once it reaches a target zone. It's already reached the low probability target zone. So if these turn red here, okay, I don't really see an ABC, so I don't think I would take that trade. I'd wait for it to get to the target zone. MYM, same thing, okay? Similar dynamics on this one. So this one hit the target zone here. So if you get a red owl here, you could go short on MYM. And again, what I probably would do is put my stop here. You might have a 3 here, A here, B, C in terms of Elliott wave, and a 4. Of course, C wave may not be over. So you got to be a little careful here. So you don't want to jump the gun until the owl goes red here, okay? Just in case C wave's not over. And that's the NQ contract. Let's take a look at crude oil here. All right, crude oil is coming up here. I don't see any trade there at this time. So, okay, so that's it. So that's kind of where we're at here. Let's go back and go to MGC. All right, so this is the one we like the best to the long side with our stop under here. So I'm just going to leave it here. Let's see what happens with that. You guys that are interested in day trading can watch and see how this might have turned out. Okay, but you know, if you put your stop down here and prices are here, you still got a 2-to-1 to the target. So you're okay there. But I'd give it a little bit more room in case it takes another slide to the downside. And if it doesn't, then you're in it. So you're okay. All right, so that's how I would play that one. So I'm going to leave it on here. I'll put a little music on and we can watch and see what happens with this thing. I can't keep it on forever, of course, because I'm getting close to the hour limit now, but a little over the hour limit. But we'll see. We'll have fun with it and see. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we will see you back here later. And Key, yes, I do trade the silver contract. I looked at it, I think, before you got here today. So you may want to check out the recording on that. I do not see a trade. Do not buy silver now. It's still coming down, okay? All right. So there we are. Okay, I'm just going to see any other little comments. Okay, no, we're good. All right, thanks everybody. Great picks today, and we'll see you back here next week. And I'll put some music on, and let's see how this day trade would have worked out. Okay, so it looks like now we have a red PTF here forming on the 15 seconds. So things have turned south. So I think we're going to make a new low here. And let's see how far it goes. So I don't think the correction's quite over yet. That's why I wanted to put the stop way down here if we'd gone in earlier here. Hopefully that will hold. It may or may not. If it doesn't hold, we go wait for it to bottom and then try to go back in if that's the case. All right, let's see what happens. We'll let it unwind here. All right, guys, I got to go. Keep that stop low if you're long on this. We just got a pyramid to the upside, but we do have a red PTF on the 15-second. So we may get that. We may have a bottom in here. This could be certainly a bottom right here where my arrow is, but we want to put our stop low in case it takes one more dive down. We got the risk to reward to do it, so we're in pretty good shape. All right, so we'll see how this turns out, and you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.